Hey there folks! So today we're going to try our best to carve something like this. So this is the festive goblin, the Christmas goblin, except that this is on a 1.5 inch plot piece of wood, and today we're going to be carving it on a 1-inch corner. So this piece is a 1-inch corner that's been cut down the middle on a diagonal. It's just a corner, and you get double the amount of wood for your money. Anyway, so to do that we're going to be using this stencil right here. This little guy right here. So let's go ahead and get started. So to do this, you just set up your stencil wherever it is that you want the face. I don't want a beard or anything like that, so I'm just going to pretty much place it right down at the bottom. I want to leave a little bit of room for a pencil line, so I give myself about a 1/16, maybe even an 1/8 of an inch from the bottom. And then it's just as easy as tracing the stencil. That looks pretty good for half of it. Oh, I didn't finish that side of the eyebrow. There it is. Okay, looks like I got everything. I'm going to go ahead and match up those lines. Okay. Alright, let's put these eyeballs over here for later. We'll come back to them. Alright, and if you're wondering, I do use cut-resistant gloves, mostly on my left hand. My right hand is just for grip. And I've had a couple close calls, but because of this glove, it saved me a good number of times. Okay, and a quick straw. I had somebody ask me about this knife. This is a flex cut roughing knife, and it is sharper than most flex cuts. I've also changed the profile of it significantly. Let me know if you want to see more details on it. I'm happy to make a video on it. It is a little bit elaborate, but I'm happy to share that with you guys. Okay, so to go ahead and get started, first thing we're going to do is we're going to come in on the side of the temples. So, right here. Alright, so to get started, we're going to come in at the side of the temples, and we're just going to start to shape the profile of the face. So that outside line is what we're going to cut to. And try to keep those cuts perpendicular to the back of the wood. This is kind of why I prefer a thinner knife over a thicker knife. It's because of when you roll the knife, the thick part doesn't get in the way. If you have a really good thin knife. This one's getting there. I would say it's good enough. Okay, and then the other set of temples. And don't worry about those flat spots right there. We're going to come back to them and shape that up. Okay, so we need to sweep this backward, right? So the face, the furthest point of the face should be the nose. So essentially we're going to start the nose and go back. And it doesn't need to be too much. Remember, this is just a 1-inch piece of wood. There's not much wood there. Okay, and then the same thing from the nose down. Okay, let's redraw those eyebrows. Remember, this thing was flat right here. Okay, so now we're pretty much ready to start on the eyebrows or the cheeks, kind of the mouth section. So, you know what, let's go ahead and start with the mouth. So I just use a V-tool and trace this line. So in this case, I'm going to want to go on the inside of this line just a hair, because that flat side, there wasn't as much wood in there as the size of my stencil, so I just need to make it a little bit smaller, just to kind of accommodate. Okay, and then the other side. Alright, next thing we're going to do is we're going to score where we just ran our V-tool through. I would say that curve right there is probably the hardest part of this carving. So to really do it, you need to just use the tip of your knife. Okay. Oh, yeah. More that way. Okay. Let's also go ahead and score the mouth, at least right here in the corner. Don't pull it too much because that'll cause the wood to tear right there since you've separated so much. So you know what, we'll just do the whole thing. Okay, now that's what we're going to do. Just remove the ends of the mouth from those cheeks. Okay. And it's not a whole lot that you need to remove. Remember, this is just a 1-inch piece of wood. There's not a whole lot of meat on there, so you know, you can't really get as detailed as you could with like a 2-inch or even a 1.5-inch piece of wood. Okay, and we're going to try to fold the lower lip underneath the top lip, at least at the edges there. Okay, and the same over here. You may need to rescore it. See if I can get my knife in there. Okay, and let's try to separate the mouth a little bit. So just run your knife like a V-tool. Take out a sliver of wood just to separate the lips. Okay, and then we're going to do it on this side as well. So you're going to do it to both the upper and the lower lip. And remember that you should always be carving downhill on the grain of the wood. See if that works. Alright. That's looking pretty good. Okay, let's do the lower lip on this side. Alright, and let's try to do the chin over here. So to do the chin, just take your knife and roll it. And that gives you the semblance of a chin, and it also defines the lip, that lower lip. Okay, and then just round this over a little bit so it doesn't look as jagged. And the final thing on this mouth, well, I mean, we're going to come back to it a little bit more, but try to smoothen this out as well, so it doesn't look like you just buried your knife in there. Okay. And on the other side. So let's try to... Now they look a little bit more even. Maybe pull this one back a little bit. There we go. Okay, and just smoothen that cheek. Okay. And now on the outside, try to round that over just a little bit. Look at that. It's looking pretty good. Okay, now let's go ahead and move over towards the eyes. So to do that, we're just going to follow the lines of the eyebrows. So we're just going to score them a little bit. And take it all the way to the edge over here. To make those eyebrows go all the way to the end. Flat section right there. And once again, score the other side. And all the way to the end. At this point, I also like to score the top of the head right here, and how it makes how it transitions over to the hat. So I take my V tool and I just trace that line. Okay. Now I have a clear definition of where the hat begins and where the face ends. Okay, and then do the upper eyebrow as well. And we're going to pull that in just a little bit. Just kind of give you a representation of what it is that we're doing. Leave that in the background there. Okay, and let's pull back the eyebrows as well. Okay, so now the eyes, all we're going to do is try to make a concave surface right there. So this is what I'm saying, that we're going to erase the eyes. So like this. There we go. And the same thing for the other side. And then we're also going to take the bridge of the nose to just underneath that eyebrow. You may have to cut it back a little bit so it looks a little bit more natural. You have a little bit more space, but yeah. Okay, and then just kind of round it over onto those eye sockets. And there you go, you see? Now the nose is definitely the furthest thing. And we have our eye sockets. Okay. Right, so the next step is using those eye stencils. So I put a little bit of poster putty on there just to help keep them in place. And sometimes it smushes around, so you gotta play with the amount, but usually a really small little piece will help keep it in place, just like that. And so there's a left and right. And just go ahead and put them in there. And it helps if you do them at the same time, because that way you can look at them at the same time and see if they're crooked, if one of them is too far up, one of them is too far down. And of course they fall down. But they'll stay on there long enough for you to be able to trace them. Okay, so I'm pretty happy with that spacing. So just trace it. Okay, and now just join those lines. And if you want, you can extend these lines a little bit into the bridge of the nose. So kind of just like wrinkle lines. Okay, so now we're going to get our knife and we're going to outline that eye. And we're just using the tip. If you go any further than that, you're just going to cause tear out in the wood. So actually, one of the pointers I like to point out is I like to do the eyes first, because oftentimes those are that's the part that's the most complicated, and if you mess that up, well, then the rest of the carving is done. But I think this is a pretty low effort carving, in my opinion. And the eyes are relatively simple to do. At least with the stencils they are. So it's not so bad if you. It's kind of hard to mess up. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay. Now remember, you're trying to get the eyes to be parallel with the back of the wood. So you're going to remove more material from the inside than you are from the outside. And I'll show you what I mean. So we also have to score up here near the eyebrow. So, like that. Just take your knife in there and remove some amount. And just round it out as best you can. And remember guys, this is a 1-inch carving. This is really miniature. This does not need to be perfect at all. And in fact, it's kind of hard to. Okay, that's good. So let's do the other side. Okay. And now, you're going to round out that eye socket. So take your knife, take off that sliver right there. Just like that. Great. Let's see if we can take off a little bit more on this side. Excellent. Makes it look a little bit more natural. And less monster-like, I guess. Okay. Alright, and so now comes the fun part. So I acknowledge that not most people have this tool. This is a number 11 1mm. It's also known as a veiner, and you could possibly use a V-tool, a micro V-tool like this, but you know what, let's go ahead and give it a try. So let's put away the veiner and use the V-tool. So that's what we're going to use to trace out this line right here. We'll see if it works out. That's not so bad. Good. And likewise on this side. great. Alright, let's round out these temples. Round out this side of the face. Let's try to remove these pencil lines. Excellent. That's looking pretty good. Okay, and let's also remove the pencil lines on the eyebrows. And round out the lower side of the eyebrows. So we're just shaving off hairs at this point. And as always, guys, if you have any ideas for any future stencils that you'd really like to see, if enough people really like it or think about it, then I'll probably go ahead and lean towards that. But I do have a good number of ideas for stencils to come, mostly things that I want to carve. And I think to address the elephant in the room, a lot of people say that this is kind of sad to see that there are stencils for carving, but honestly, you still gotta carve the thing. So is it a bastardization? I don't think so. I think people want to spend more time carving and less time drawing. So that's what I'm going with. Okay, and the nose. So I'm not gonna lie, guys, the nose sometimes gives me a little bit of trouble on this. First thing I'm gonna do is just give it a light outline. Okay, like that. And ultimately, I just want to separate it from the wood around it. And then I just remove some of the wood around it. That's it. And all the while, I'm going to start rounding that nose as I take it off. Okay, just like that. Okay. And now is when you're going to have to kind of take a little bit of wood here, take a little bit of wood there. Maybe remove some more from the cheek area. But overall, that looks pretty good. So just give it a little bit of rounding. It's kind of difficult to do because there really isn't much there to carve with. Alright, I think that looks pretty good, so let's go ahead and round out this part of the mouth. Make those lips just a little bit more pronounced. Okay, and let's get that V-tool again. Let's use the nice one, the file V-tool, and just separate those lips right down the middle. not the lips, but rather the mustache area. Okay. Right here. Round it out. Take out a little chip. Alright, excellent. Now let's give him a little bit more definition in the face. So in this case, I am going to use a veiner. This is a number 11 3mm. I'm just going to start at the lower end right here. And up. Kind of like bags, if you would. Alright. And now I'm going to give him some lines on the side of the face right here. So, still with the V-tool. 3 lines. 1, 2, 3. And then 1 down the side of the cheek right here. And this is pretty easy to go downhill, so right here. Okay, that looks good. So let's do the other side. 3 lines. 1, 2, and 3. On the side of the cheek. Let's see where I started right here. Okay. Looks like a pretty good face. You know, I could always use a little bit more help here and there, but ultimately I think that's pretty good. Okay. Yeah, just give him a more pronounced lower lip. Okay, excellent. Alright, the only thing left to do over here is kind of do the forehead. So we'll do this. Just a couple lines over here. And of course the hairlines in the eyebrows. So you can do vertical ones, you could do horizontal ones. I find a lot of light strokes is probably the best way to go for this guy. It looks really good. Okay. All right. So now that that face is done, let's go and move over to the hat. Just kidding. There's something over here. Okay. So for the hat, we're going to do something like this. Big fat brim. With something like that. Something like this. A ball right here. and a bit of a downturn. Right, so the hat's going to go like this. Is that going to work? Yep. Something like this. Okay, excellent. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, and down here as well. It's looking pretty good. Let's go ahead and separate the brim from the actual hat. Alright, and it looks a little Russian right now, so we're going to try to straighten that up a little bit. There we go, like that, and this guy too. Alright, separate the hat and the brim. Alright, and let's continue to shape this hat. That. Alright, and let's go ahead and score that up until the turn. And sure enough, we're going to remove a big old section of it like that. Carve right up to there. And the cool thing about this is that, so you see that wood that kind of, it's curving this way? We're actually going to make this even more drastic. We're going to make it almost come back this way, like that. So, of course, every line we draw, we try to erase. So there's the ball. And then we said we're going to do like this. So I'm going to angle that backward. So now you can visualize what section we need to take out. Ta-da! This is probably not a good example of that. this is what we're trying to do, like that. So we'll see if we can actually accomplish that. Alright, now shave this back. Because this hat is going to thin out as it gets to the top. Jeez, that's a long hat. Right. That looks pretty good. Let's round it over just a little bit more. Look at that. That's pretty cool. Maybe get them a little bit more over here. Just shave that off just a little bit. And once you oil this, all those lines kind of disappear, so don't worry too much about going too deep. So now let me show you a cool trick on how to get that texturing. So remember that number 11? This is a 3mm. All you do is kind of randomize the lengths and the depths. And at an angle, at the same angle is perfectly fine too. I can't tell you how much I love these file gouges. Sometimes they can be a little pricey, but man, they just cut so smooth. Okay. Look at that. Then we just do the ball in the same fashion. There you have it, folks. That's the 1-inch version of Christmas Monster.